I'm not saying because it's just my system. It's a really good system because most people that you talk to just want to come in and like give you your strategy. They're not looking at the team. They're not looking at the brand. They're not setting those leadership metrics. And they just want to just put their head down and just move forward. And what happens is sometimes we end up not seeing the results.
Hey everyone, I'm so excited to welcome Victoria Hajjar to the show today. Victoria Hajjar is the founder of Ugli Ventures, specializing in helping high growth B2B companies and professional services firms build scalable marketing systems that drive predictable revenue. With over 15 years of experience, Victoria empowers CEO level leaders to develop data-driven strategies, build high-performing teams, and transform marketing from a cost center into a strategic growth driver. A Google and HubSpot certified expert and host of the Scalable Marketing Machine podcast, she brings global expertise for markets, including the US, UK, China, Sri Lanka, UAE, and Mexico to every project. Victoria, thank you so much for being on Pivot to Profit podcast.
Hey, thank you so much. I'm really excited to chat with you today.
Yes, I've got some great questions for us to dive into. But first, if you out there, listener, are a business owner who need help better understanding your numbers, who run out of money before the month is over, we'd love to talk to you at Pivot Business Group. Just go to pamjordan.com to schedule a call. All right, Victoria, are you ready to hit it?
I'm ready to hit it. Throw it at me, girl.
All right. First off, simple question. What did you want to be when you grew up? Like, what was the dream? Tell me.
The dream. Well, it's really funny because I think I wanted to be an actor and recording this right before the Oscars are coming up. And I remember loving the Oscars when I was little. In fact, my mom always jokes, I used to dress up for the Oscars, like to the nines, like go to the secondhand store and get like ball gowns and sit in a ball gown. So my mom loves that story. But I have to say, I first became enamored with marketing, though, also when I was really young. And I have this deep memory of like sitting on the floor in the bathroom at my grandparents' house because they were like hoarders. They had so much stuff under their sink. And I was so curious about all of the products. Like I remember very clearly just loving packaging, loving reading the products. And I didn't realize that was marketing at the time. But I just loved, like, how are we describing things? Like what is the packaging? So that was really where my love of marketing kind of grew, even as maybe my acting aspirations died down as I got older.
Okay, I love it. So what was your first paying job? Like, where did you get your first paycheck?
Well, this is a huge part of my story because when I went to school in New York City and just like any good student, I had internships before I graduated school. And I grew up in New Jersey in the Tri-State area. And so I was interning at A&E, which is a television network, which is the History Channel and the Biography Channel. But when I was there, it was like the days of like Dog the Bounty Hunter, if you remember Dog.
Yes,
we all remember Dog. So I was essentially an executive assistant in New York. And I had that job when I was an intern, and then they hired me. And it really was a big piece of my story because I was in that cubicle. I remember so vividly, and having this like sinking feeling of like, this is my life. Like this could be my life in a cubicle. I could be, in the tri-state area forever. And that really was the beginning of my journey in my career, because from that point in that cubicle, I had this calendar inside my cubicle. And mind you, I was an executive assistant for the producers of show like the Dog the Bounty Hunter. And I remember one day, Dog was insisting to come to lunch to meet the producers, and he needed to find a place that served lobster for lunch because he only wanted to eat lobster. So I'm sitting here in my cubicle and I'm looking at this calendar that was, for some reason, I don't know why I had it, China, like scenes from China. So it had like the Great Wall, it had like a dim sum restaurant. And I'm on the phone, like calling restaurants, seeing where are they serving lobster for lunch in Manhattan, which is like not many places. And I was like, I got to get out of here. So that was really the moment that I decided I was going to pack up, get the heck out of New York. And I moved to Beijing when I was about, And I started, and that's how really my marketing career started, because that was my first marketing job after that, was when I was living in China. Yeah.
Amazing. Amazing. So what were you doing in China learning marketing? What did that look like? Was there packaging involved since you love packaging?
Right. Because there was, well, it's interesting. So when I first got there, I got there teaching English, so a lot of people do. And then I realized like, I love kids, but I don't want to be with them that much, like all day teaching them. Like, God love them. So I was just crazy to find something that was going to get me out of teaching. And I ended up linking up with two entrepreneurs who had raised a bunch of money, and they were building boutique hotels across Asia. And they were, from the US and from Australia. So that was really my parlay into entrepreneurship, and sort of started a lifelong love of working with founders and investors directly for growth and scale. And so from them, I was able to learn not just about marketing, because they were amazing marketers. And we had the opportunity through those projects to work with world-class branding studios. So I worked with Frog Design. We worked with unbelievable artists and graphic designers and all these things to build these brands. And that's where I kind of cut my teeth.
Yeah.
But what's interesting is from that, I began this trajectory of just trying to get in front of and working with more high caliber founders, because marketing for a lot of businesses is such a difficult piece of the puzzle, much like finance, right? And it's one of those things that you kind of learn as you go. And if you don't have the budget to hire the greatest and the best, your team has to kind of figure it out. And so that's what I've done for a lot of my career. And so I knew that in order to advance as a marketer, I had to get next to higher caliber founders that were achieving higher things, and that knew more and more and more about sales, about marketing, so I could learn and then, of course, grow from there. So that's sort of how my passion of marketing started, and I haven't looked back.
I love it. So why Ugli Ventures? That's a fun name. Where'd you come up with that?
Well, it came out of my own frustration, because really working with founders and investors, and as you know, Pam, investors are not very forgiving about making mistakes, especially when it comes to money. So I felt like, a lot of the first half of my career was really like a trial by fire. And it was probably the ugliest, most stressful parts of the business that I was feeling like I was being involved in, the marketing and the sales, right? How do we get this to work? How do we put the pieces together? And as, I just worked with more and more founders, I just realized like, yeah, it's not just me. Everyone feels like this is the hardest part of business. Yeah. And so I became really passionate about this mission of, how can I go into projects and turn this most ugliest piece of business that a lot of people don't even want to look at, those conversion rates. They don't want to keep track of those metrics because they don't want to keep track of the ROI. So it's painful. How do I turn this into something beautiful, something that I can get excited about? So our mission at Ugly is to turn that ugliest part of your business into something beautiful.
Yeah, it's funny how there's certain parts of business that entrepreneurs love and are drawn to, and then there's parts of business that entrepreneurs literally try to ignore. Like yes. Marketing is one of them. Finance, accounting is one of them. Tax Absolutely. Is one of them, right? And it's so funny how like the sales is so much fun and fulfillment is so much fun, but it's like the back of house operation, marketing, accounting that the entrepreneurs are just like, la, 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 it doesn't exist. I will pretend. Yes.
100%. And that's where, it was always really challenging for me to be in that position, especially not coming from corporate, right? In my corporate career, I was an executive assistant, right? I was not doing marketing. So just learning. And so I became this sponge of learning and picking up so much about business altogether, right? And so, you've got a lot of businesses, you've been running business for a long time. It's so fun to put those pieces together. And that's really what I've been addicted to, which I'm sure you've got that addiction too.
Oh, yes. It's a drug. It's a drug. So I was listening to some of your podcast episodes, and on one of them, you said that you were scared of the numbers in marketing when you first. Oh, yeah. So tell me what that means.
Oh, yeah. This is a huge one. So as I mentioned, I worked a lot with founders and investors, and having to be in an early stage of my career, presenting numbers to boards, right, to stakeholders. And when I was like in my 20s, I couldn't even look at my own bank account. Let me tell you, like, I didn't even understand the interest rates on my student loans. I didn't understand any of it. And I started with marketing really like the fun stuff, right? It's like events and logos and websites and all of these things. But now I'm dating myself a little bit, but there was a point where, SEO became really hot, and then social media. I was started working before social media was used for business, which is so funny to think about now.
Yeah.
But when things started shifting, Google Analytics really paying attention to SEO, all this stuff, I had to be not just presenting the projects and the websites done and all this stuff. We needed to be counting for the ROI of all of the team members. And I remember, it took me going into like literally, Pam, I had to like go into the bathroom and pump myself up in front of the mirror, like lion roars and everything, to be in front of these, pale, male, and stale old white men grilling me on the numbers. And to me, it really was equating to my worth as like a human, to be honest.
Right.
Right. I'm sure you see that, right? That
Oh, for
psychology.
sure. There's so much shame and guilt and so many negative emotions around money.
Unbelievable amounts. And I think the thing that really has shifted, or what I really learned from all of this, is that, everything, a lot of things in business, but especially in marketing, is trial and error and experimentation, right? And so not everything is going to work, and that's okay. But I remember in the beginning of it, if I wasn't in green on all the numbers all the time, and of course you have stakeholders and people that have real money on the line grilling you and you don't really know the answer. Oh, it was the worst absolute feeling. But what I say to founders that I work with, and I know that you are going to be with me on this, it's like you have to move through that uncomfortable piece and look sometimes at the really ugly things, right? To start to be able to ask the question. So what I found is that actually through the pain of looking at the metrics and the numbers is the catalyst for growth. And when you're sitting with your marketing team, especially, and your finance team equal, and your sales team, and you're looking at numbers in yellow, numbers in red, numbers in red, week over week, it's actually the pain that's necessary for you to go through to get to either the people that you need that are going to help you get to the next level, the creative idea, the other thing to test, because otherwise you're just holding your breath and you're staying still.
Yeah, stagnation is death. And I see entrepreneurs all the time. It's like people are either super risk averse or they'll just do anything. And the problem is if you don't have the numbers and the metrics to back up what you're doing and you're not willing to go through the pain, like you don't even know if you're winning or losing. You don't know which side you're on.
And I've been through both of those periods of time because I remember in the early days, I always had this mentality with bootstrap companies that I worked with was like, you hold your breath, you have to do everything the cheapest. And this is a mentality that a lot of founders have, right? You just want to do everything the cheapest, right? Or even now it's getting so dangerous with AI because yes, AI can help with a lot of things, but I feel like it's just reiterating this DIY or reinvigorating this DIY mentality where let me tell you, like, yeah, you can DIY your books. Sure, you can like DIY all your graphics. Many people do for many, many years. But what I can tell you 100% is that you could do that for many, many years and not get anywhere.
Yeah.
Not get anywhere because it takes that experience, that knowledge, that understanding what the data is telling you, the iterating and improving, which is often the piece that people miss unless they have people that know what they're doing in those situations. So I think that it's that necessary pain, but that's where growth comes from,
Tell me how you learned about numbers because, you didn't go to school for accounting. Your work experience is marketing. So how did you learn about numbers to be able to have those conversations?
Let me tell you, like I went through a university level course on accounting, which it was accounting for founders, not because I want to be accountant, but I realized at one point is like, first of all the things that you do for businesses, it is so fundamentally important for that knowledge to be understood by the leadership team. And what I often was finding is I was coming up against companies, and honestly, it didn't matter if the company was 3 million or 40 million in revenue. There were companies I came up against that maybe they had a CFO, maybe not, maybe it was an accountant, whatever. Regardless, CEO was not transmitting these really important things like how much it costs to deliver the product. A lot of times I was going to a project and they're like, give us the budget. And I'm like, well, what? Like, well, how much does it cost to the thing? Like, what's your operational cost? How much is right? Like they just, CEOs or founders will just say, make up the numbers, right? Make up how much you want to spend, all this stuff. But it was coming from a place that I was not feeling comfortable enough to talk about the P&L and the cost of goods sold and the gross versus the net and all of those things. So I personally went through like a university level course. It was so boring. Pam, I'm sure you would have loved it. I was like, what am I doing? It was like pulling my nails out.
Right.
But that was step one that helped me understand the bigger picture. So then I could see like these metrics. Now, the smaller metrics like your CAC, your LTV, all of those things, like these things I, again, was learned through moments where I was with investors grilling me on these things and literally crying after the meetings and then like Googling it. And I remember for many years, I had like cheat cards for all of those acronyms on my desk. So I was able to, right? But let me tell you, I will never forget this. This is a good lesson. So I was working with a very accomplished entrepreneur, fabulous mentor of mine, Dan Martell. And when we were working together, I came in to overhaul his marketing department, and he is 3-time exited founder, super SaaS, right? And before working with him, I had worked on some SaaS projects, but that wasn't my whole world.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget just getting totally chewed out, not understanding CAC payback period, because CAC payback period is very
pause. Define real quick in case our listeners don't understand. Define
yes, exactly. Right. Yeah. So it's a very SaaS specific metric, really. A CAC payback period is like your client acquisition costs, but how long it takes for you to get that paid back. So if you're on a subscription model, right, or a membership model or whatever, and people are paying you a small amount each month, it's like how many months do they have to be retained in order to recuperate, right? And I just remember being in like a leadership meeting and just being chewed out. Of course, I should have known. But you don't know what you don't know.
Yeah.
And I remember that deep shame, embarrassment. And I was like, oh, I can't believe I didn't. And that, again, those painful moments were my biggest growth. I was like, okay, now I'm going to really hone in. Like, what are all of the other maybe metrics that I don't understand for SaaS or for CS or for all of these things that like, you got to know. But again, unless you're pinned up against that very painful moment, you're not going to be pushed. You're not going to push yourself more.
I agreed. Yeah.
100, right?
And in marketing, there's so many numbers and there's so many acronyms. So like if you're talking to an entrepreneur and they're just trying to figure out, am I winning or losing at this thing? What are some basic numbers that they should be focusing on in relation to their marketing?
So there's a lot of metrics and they can get really overwhelming. And the problem is that with these huge dashboards that people build out, I've talked to so many people, they're so proud of their dashboards. I'm like, do you use it? Do you look at it? Is there any? So the two pieces of advice, if I were to say the two metrics that you need to know by heart is your LTV to CAC ratio. So you need to understand how much it costs to acquire the client, which by the way, is something that your finance team will help a lot, right? You've got to understand that metric. And then you have to also have an idea of the lifetime value of your customer. And there's different methods. For marketing, I like to focus on the LTV, that lifetime value through 1 year. It depends what your business is. But for me, it gives me a really good marker of how much I can really spend to acquire the client. And of course, you have to pay attention to your retention rates. But if you understand lifetime value and your client acquisition cost, and you keep that in a positive, you're going to be in a good place. So LTV to CAC ratio, you want to make sure that you're on the right side of it, if nothing else. The other thing that I want to encourage everyone to do, because this is like the missing piece of a lot of people's dashboards for marketing, is that you have to be tracking your metrics against your goals, and you have to be having, that actual versus goal. So there's so many people that are just tracking their goals and you're like, this means nothing to you. So you have to take the time to say, where is my ship sailing? Where do I want to go? And this is why why I love Pam and everyone at Pivot, because the idea is that you need to know from your finance team, what are you aiming at this year? Because marketing and sales is a waterfall down from that important question. It's not like, let's do whatever we can. It's kind of saying, listen, what do we need? What revenue do we need to make? And then that's going to be the task for the sales team to say, how many sales do we need to make? Then the sales team's going to say, hey, marketing, we need this many leads. And then in your marketing dashboard, you're going to have to be very vigilant with saying, okay, we're going to break down that many leads over 12 months, over the quarter, over the month. And then each week we look at that and we're saying, are we delivering the leads that we need? Yeah, there's a bunch of other stuff you can be looking at. But marketing is responsible for leads. Another big thing is like, step back, take a 10,000 foot view. Do you know what is the purpose of your marketing, right? For many B2B businesses, that means getting people on a sales call. That's your North Star metric that you should be looking at every single week. But it's, again, I know I've worked with founders directly for many, many years. I know it's not always easy to maintain that 10,000 foot view when you're doing a million things, but it really does help to get those numbers right? Understand your revenue goals and what that translates into of sales that you need to make and leads that you need. Those are really.
Aside from not tracking these things, what are some common mistakes that you see business owners making with their marketing dollars?
The humongous mistake that wastes people so much money is thinking that your execution team is going to drive your marketing strategy. So a lot of folks get really disappointed because they hire like a bunch of hands to be in their business, to do the social media, to send out the emails. Maybe you got someone running ads. Maybe you've got this, that, and the other. Number one, founder is usually the centerpiece to all of these people, communicating in disparate ways to each one of these folks individually, and no one's working as a team. And a lot of founders, especially like in the earlier stage businesses, I feel this, and it's so cuckoo, but I get it. People feel bad like bringing everyone together for a marketing meeting as a team if they don't have full-time employees, right? If they're like, oh, they're an agency or they're a freelancer or a contractor, they'll just go around that person's communication schedule instead of bringing everyone together as a team. So first thing is, treat everyone as if they're your employee team. And you need to get buy-in from especially from your marketing, but I think this applies to everyone in the business. It's like, you need to get everyone working in your business feeling like they're a part of the team, right? You're going to get so much more out of them. And then really understanding that your executors are probably extremely good at executing. And when we bring everyone together to talk to each other, that's a good step in the right direction. But there is typically a strategic piece that's missing that ties everything together, that makes sure that all of these disparate actions that you're doing, all these tactics you're doing in our metric of bringing more leads into the business. So we need to bring everyone together as a team. We need to give them KPIs that are tied to ROI, really, especially when you're smaller. We got to understand how everyone needs to be in an ROI state of mind. And we need to make sure that we have a strategy that we're working against, right? You can bring in someone on a one-off basis to build a strategy for you. You could get a fractional person to come and do that for you and lead everyone. But without the strategy and understanding how everything works together, you're going to be in that, and I hate saying this because it's like a commonly used phrase, but it is the spaghetti against the wall approach, right? And we could be spending money and it's not actually working more efficiently to bring everyone into your world and as leads and as sales.
So how do you define a fractional CMO?
I'm going to explain the way that I work with clients. I don't love the idea of bringing in fractional people forever and ever. I think fractional is definitely a stepping stone, right, to help you grow. So you have to think of it as an investment to get you to the next level, right? Now, when I go into work with companies, I come in to do 4 specific things, which is making sure that their brand communication strategy is sound. Because a lot of times we have businesses that have gotten quite far, just kind of with like brute strength, right? But there comes a point where, as the founder, as the CEO, if you want to like loosen up your time, or free up your time, I should say, to free up your time to focus on the bigger needle moving things, right? To be the leader, to make those big partnerships, things that are really going to tip the scales. We need to make sure that you have a marketing department that's supporting you. And oftentimes we need things like our brand. We have it in our head. We need it documented. We need clarity on our brand, who we're serving, and a really clear set of directives for the team, because everything comes up for the team. So I go in, I work with companies to clean up their brand and their brand communication strategy. Then we work on building the marketing growth strategy, which is implementing what I call your 24/7 marketing flywheel, right? We're designing the client journey. And this is the key element in bringing all of those marketing efforts together and making sure that there's no leak in this journey. Basically, there's no place where folks are falling off, right? That it's all tied together. The next is evaluating the team. Do we have the right team? Do we have the right people on the bus to get us to where we need to go? Because oftentimes when you're in growth phase, when you're first getting your business off the ground, you kind of have a modge podge of people helping you out, right? Everyone's wearing all the hats or whatever. But if you're at the point where you're ready to grow, we need to get the right team members on doing the right things with clear directives. Doesn't mean that people are not wearing multiple hats. It's that we've got, if there's a piece of the strategy that needs to be performing better, we need to ask ourselves, is this person really capable of getting me to the next level? Right? And that's some hard decisions. But I evaluate the team and then swap out folks or get some supplementary people in if needed. And then the last piece is setting up all of the leadership metrics, the marketing scorecard, right? Setting the KPIs for the team, setting the 90-day goals, and really getting all of everyone moving in the right direction. This is how I work with businesses. And I've done this for a really long time. I want to just give advice to everyone out there. I'm not saying because it's just my system. It's a really good system, because most people that you talk to just want to come in and like give you your strategy. They're not looking at the team. They're not looking at the brand. They're not setting those leadership metrics. And they just want to just put their head down and just move forward. And what happens is sometimes we end up not seeing the results. And the reason is because we need all of these 4 elements working in tandem in order to really get a powerful ROI-driven marketing department for your business. That's how I work. And so that's typically, coming in for a 90-day project. And then for a lot of companies, I stay on managing everything. Or once all of that basic stuff's in place, then you could have, a consultant in for monthly or something to just make sure everything's running smoothly, or to make sure that your quarterly goals are on track and all of that stuff. So it doesn't have to be this forever cost and forever retainer if you're saying, I don't think I can afford strategy. Sometimes you can get the heavy guns in to do the heavy lifting work, and it doesn't have to be an ongoing forever retainer that's a big cost for you.
So when should a business owner raise their hand and say, I am ready for a fractional CFO or CMO? It's time.
I believe that strategic piece is really important once you are clear that you have product market fit.
Okay.
Before you have product market fit, I think it's really, really critical for the founder or the CEO to have their hands more in the marketing. It means that you are working hand in hand with your executors to be testing and iterating and improving yourself, because I have a deep belief in marketing and sales for any business owners that you need to understand enough to give it away. If you just blindly hand all of your finances over to a bookkeeper without knowing the basic things, you're going to run into problems. It's the same with the marketing. A lot of people just hand everything over to outsourced people, just just close their eyes and keep moving forward in a different direction. And then nothing's working and they don't know why, and they can't direct their team. And I say, once you have product market fit and you're getting some sales repeatedly, then you're going to have a budget that frees you up to bring in that strategic piece to kind of put in the systems and organize and kind of strategize for growth. Yeah. But a lot of times it is like, if you really don't know what you're selling and you really don't know who you're selling it to, that's something that you really need. That's like first layer. You need to understand that stuff before we start making those strategic investments.
Makes a lot of sense to me. So what's next for you, Victoria? What's next on the horizon?
2025 came in hot and heavy, I have to say. It's coming hot and heavy. I'm really excited. I'm in the mid. My goal this year is to finish a book. I know you have written a book. It's such an inspiration, but I'm about 50 pages in. to a book. So I'm hoping to finish a book this year so I can be sharing my scalable marketing machine methodology with all founders, because again, it's really important to learn and understand enough about marketing to give it away. And for folks that can't afford to bring someone like me on, I want a modality by which they can get all of my strategies and start implementing and testing and trying so they can get to that product market fit phase and kind of have those systems set up and position themselves well for growth.
Awesome. Well, I can't wait to see the book, and I will definitely order one. Love it. Love it. It has been great having you on here. I'm going to wrap us up with some rapid response questions. Are you ready?
Yes. Hit them.
Profit or growth?
Profit.
What's one business expense you'll never cut, no matter what?
Ooh. As a business owner, an executive assistant.
What's the best money advice you've ever received?
That the best money advice is really understanding your client acquisition cost.
Okay.
Yeah.
If you had to start over today, what's the one thing you do differently with your finances?
Ooh. I would invest in, that's a really good one. If I had to start over, you know what? I think I would make all the same mistakes. I think I've learned so much from every mistake. And I have to say, I'm proud of the bold, like, investments and that balance between being really conservative and being really outlandish with like your investments, right? I think I fell in the other side for a long time of being really scared to make big investments and take really risk, to be very risky. But I think that if you can find like someone like a great finance team to help you make those smart investments.
Yeah.
I think, yes. Okay. Let me rewind. If I were to start over again, I would have someone that understood the finances helping me understand better how I can make those investments for my own business, right?
I love it. What does financial freedom mean to you?
It means being able to take a vacation without feeling stressed out. That's what it means to me.
Awesome. Victoria, thank you so much for sharing your profit story with us. Where can people connect with you?
Well, I hang out all day on LinkedIn. So that's where my preferable platform is. So you can reach me, Victoria Hajjar, at LinkedIn, and DM me if you have any questions about this or you want to learn more about, scaling and growing. Just DM me. I love to like rap about marketing in a DM.
I love it. I love it. So that's all for today's episodes of Pivot to Profit. If you're ready to understand your numbers, increase your profit, and increase your wealth, just go to pamjordan.com. And remember, it's not what you make that matters. It's what you keep.